If you've been remotely aware of ska since the 1980s, you likely know these two, Walt Jabsco and the Beat Girl. Walt's origin story is well known, and Peter Tosh's story is well known. But what about the Beat Girl and the story of Brigitte Bond? Why isn't there more information about her? Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm a lifelong ska fan and artist behind Miss Upsetter Designs. A few months ago, I'd planned to continue my reproduction Banbury badges as enamel pins with an updated Beat Girl design that was closer to the woman she was based on. While searching for images of her, I came across this archival news photo on eBay with the following caption on the back. I had a lot of questions, so I began to dig for answers. The answers I found led to more questions, so I kept digging until I hit dead ends. This video is the result of spending months of my free time trying to find Brigitte. This video is the first and most comprehensive resource about her life to date. However, this story is incomplete. I'm hoping that by putting this video out there, I can share the incredible details of her life that I was able to piece together, while also reaching people who knew her or who knew of her, so we can fill in those blanks and give her the proper place in history that she deserves. Before I hop in, a few things.
Sid, are you ready? Are you ready to dance?
In the late 1970s, the two-tone ska revival movement was in full force. The Beat hired Hunt Emerson to draw them a logo that would fit the two-tone aesthetic and look good alongside David Story's and John Sims' Walt Jabsco design. Emerson created the Beat Girl using a photo of Brigitte Bond he had found in a newspaper as inspiration, and this image of the reference and the original sketch has pretty much been the start and finish of the history of the Beat Girl. Due to the lack of details of the photograph, I personally recall hearing several Beat Girl origin stories throughout the years. Most were variations of the photo being taken in Jamaica, either in front of Prince Buster's record shop or at a sound system dance, and the woman was usually labeled as either Prince Buster's girlfriend or wife. The actual story behind the photo is that it was taken immediately after Prince Buster arrived at Heathrow Airport on February 25, 1964. This photo later appeared in the May 19, 1979 issue of Melody Maker, and this is where Hunt Emerson found inspiration for the Beat Girl's design. The Beat Girl is an icon. She has grown beyond a band logo and has been recognized around the world as a symbol of ska music and subculture for over 40 years. I hope that my research can show the world that the woman behind the icon is also an icon in her own right. So let me introduce you. Also known as a square mile of sin, Soho in the 1960s was known for music, fashion, sex, and coffee shops. The Two Eyes Coffee Bar at 59 Old Compton Street is considered the birthplace of British rock and roll and one of the first rock clubs in Europe. In the 1950s and 60s, the Two Eyes was a popular hangout spot for music-loving teens, as well as a place for musicians to potentially be scouted at. Owned by Paul Lincoln, an Australian professional wrestler known as Dr. Death, and managed by Tom Littlewood, they welcomed young musicians to perform and helped the ones they deemed talented launch their careers.
It's always been the general principle of the Two Eyes to audition everyone, just in case we may miss someone who was of value, and also to be fair to everyone.
Lincoln and Littlewood managed and or helped launch the careers of many who would later become legends. And the Two Eyes itself became legendary for shaping British music. Mod had gone mainstream. and mod music was booming. Keen to trends, Tom Littlewood had started adding mod talent to his stable, including a singer named Brigitte Bond. Brigitte's earliest performance I found was on February 2nd, 1964, at South Hall Community Center, which was considered a significant music venue in that era. On February 21st, she performed with the Hysterics and Bobby King and the Sabres at the Glenlyn Ballroom, which The Who frequently performed at. On February 25th, Prince Buster arrived in London to promote Jamaica's first national music, ska. With a trilby hat in hand, as a gift for Prince Charles, Prince Buster was greeted at Heathrow by a crowd of mods and musicians, including Brigitte. This moment here is when that iconic photo that inspired the Beat Girl design was taken. That evening, Prince Buster officially began his promotional tour and held a private performance at London's extravagant Mayfair Hotel. Ska had been positioned to be the next music craze, and those in attendance were getting their first glimpse. A photo taken at this event would soon be in newspapers around the world, but not to discuss ska. On March 6th, Brigitte played a show with the Eagles, the Eddie Langdon Group, and Roy Starr and the Cherokees at the California Ballroom in Dunstable. The California Ballroom hosted many musical legends and became a hot spot for the Northern Soul scene beginning in the 1970s. In mid-March, Brigitte's first single, Blue Beat Baby, was released. The earliest mention of it I find is March 14th, 1964 in Record Mirror. I want to point out that while I was researching Brigitte, I read plenty of commentary online that this song was a cash-in on the success of My Boy Lollipop. But My Boy Lollipop was released around the same time and first charted at number 47 on March 18th, 1964, and was weeks away from becoming a massive hit. A review of her single in Record Mirror refers to sales, but I feel this is more commentary on the record industry's huge marketing push to make ska, or should I say make their interpretation of Blue Beat, the craze of 1964. Brigitte performed 2 more shows I know of in March 1964, one on the 20th at the Jazz Cellar Club, a club that hosted many soon-to-be famous in this era, and on the 24th, she performed with Eddie Langdon and the Cracksmen at Bridgewater's Town Hall.
I believe Brigitte was playing more shows than I could find proof of in early 1964, since I've read comments from people online who performed with her, but I could not find advertisements for the shows that they played. If you performed with Brigitte, or if you saw Brigitte perform, please comment below or email me. I'd love to hear your stories.
By the 1960s, the Flamingo Club had become well known for jazz, R&B, West Indian music, and scandal. The club attracted a broad clientele and was particularly popular among the West Indian community, the LGBTQ community, sex workers, musicians, mods, Black American military servicemen, celebrities, and gangsters. Despite the rich musical and cultural history, the Flamingo is best known for its link to the Profumo affair. But interestingly, the Profumo scandal has a direct connection and impact on subculture, ska, and Brigitte. In October 1962, a violent confrontation between Lucky Gordon, Johnny Edgecombe, and Christine Keeler at the club was the spark that ignited the explosive Profumo scandal. Lucky had been an occasional member of resident band Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames, and the band was performing the evening of the confrontation. This incident led to American Air Force authorities to ban servicemen from visiting the club, shifting the club clientele to lean more mod. Mods who'd come for jazz or American soul were introduced to Jamaican R&B and eventually ska. Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames were one of the first bands to infuse Jamaican ska into their music. And Georgie Fame performed organ on Prince Buster's Wash Wash. In April 1964, the Flamingo began a weekly Blue Beat night. Brigitte performed at the second show on April 23rd alongside Rudy and Sketto, Psycho and the Caribs, Psycho is Lucky Gordon's brother, and Duke Vin's sound system. Blue Beat Night went on for 2 months, and the Flamingo continued to play an important role in the spread of Jamaican music until closing its doors at the end of the 60s. Sir John Waller, 7th Baronet, was an author and poet who inherited the baronetcy in 1954 and made headlines when the stipulation around his vast inheritance were made public. For Sir John to receive his entire £250,000 inheritance, rather than just the interest, he had to keep the baronetcy lineage alive by producing a male heir who reached the age of 10. If he did not meet this requirement, the fortune would be donated to charity. Around late April or early May, Sir John walked past the Two Eyes Coffee Bar and saw a poster promoting Brigitte Bond. He walked in and asked his friend Tom Littlewood, Brigitte's manager, about Brigitte, and a meeting between the two was set up. Sir John took Brigitte to the storeroom and proposed to her on their first date, and she said yes. Getting engaged did not slow her momentum. She appeared in Titbits on May 9th, and another news source states she was involved with mods at Margate over the Whitsun weekend. The engagement was made public on May 21, 1964, but it was quickly called off because Brigitte could not produce an heir for Sir John. News of Brigitte being transgender and the proposal being called off was published all over the world. I will refrain from sharing my own speculative thoughts on this, but I'll break from the chronological narrative here and share some further details I found about Sir John. An obituary for Sir John described him as having a dual personality. On one hand, the sensitive man of literature, on the other, the hard-drinking, unashamed homosexual who believed all publicity was good publicity. Sir John was not shy about his connections to the underworld, was fond of gambling, and made poor financial decisions. It seems as though Sir John was looking for the right person to help him get to his full inheritance. He had a pattern of proposing to women the first time he met them, but more like a marriage business proposal. Have my son, I'll pay you £10,000, then we get divorced. Quotes make it seem like Sir John did not actually want children. And when he did get married in 1974, he got drunk and lost track of his bride on their wedding night. His wife, Anne, did get pregnant, and she had a girl. They got divorced, and Sir John died in 1995, having never received his inheritance. Brigitte did not miss a beat after her short engagement ended. Her career moved from the mod music scene to the members-only clubs. Brigitte got a nightly gig from June 8th to the 13th at Bertie Green's Astor Club alongside doo-wop group The Mudlarks, American duo The Islanders, and Bertie Green's lovely Astor Girls. The Astor Club was a prestigious nightclub, frequented by privileged, even royal members. The Astor featured music, comedy, stripteases, and other entertainment, including their young and beautiful hostesses. Brigitte soon changed her management to the Astor Room's talent agency, the Arthur Lowe Agency. While I could not find details of their working relationship, Bertie Green and the Arthur Lowe Agency had been described as having a very bad reputation among artists, even having lost a high court case where they tried to cash in on a previous client's success. Bertie Green had known connections to the infamous Kray twins, and a series of events that took place at a Christmas party held at the Astor in 1965 started the gangland war between the Kray and Richardson gangs, ultimately destroying both. At the end of June, the topless fashion trend had come to London. Brigitte was one of the few who was brave enough to give it a try and wore a topless dress to London's Hilton Hotel nightclub. She then departed on a short tour of Africa, including dates in Mombasa, Nairobi, and Salisbury. She danced at the Sombrero Club in Nairobi, but unfortunately, that's the only venue I could confirm. If you saw Brigitte perform in Africa, please share any details you can in the comments. In August, she shared a few dates at the Cavendish Club with legendary crooner Dick Haymes and began performing regularly at the Pelican Club in St. Anne's Court. However, around this time, police were conducting a sting operation at the Pelican Club, and within a few months, the manager and licensee holder were charged with keeping a disorderly house. The case cited one of the reasons for the charge was that Brigitte was dancing fully nude, and she was referred to as the worst. In early 1965, Brigitte toured South Africa and Rhodesia, then returned to England and headlined for a week at the high-profile La Dolce Vita in Newcastle. In late June, Brigitte arrived in Madrid, Spain, and debuted at the Les May Ballroom, then had a month-long residency at La Dolce Vita Madrid. 1960s Francoist Spain was not a safe place for anyone in the LGBTQ community. Brigitte performing there as a trans woman was certainly a huge risk. The first article published about her all but said she was trans, but the threat of arrest did not seem to deter Brigitte from performing. She may have returned to South Africa again between August and November, but she definitely returned back to Madrid for the remainder of 1965 and wrapped up the year with a residency at the York Club.
The fame of the evangelist had preceded him. For about 20,000 people, Earl's Court was the Mecca on a summer evening.
Reverend Billy Graham, a prolific American evangelist and one of the most influential Christian leaders of the 20th century, arrived in London to begin his month-long crusade. During that single month, Dr. Graham repeatedly filled Earl's Court and preached to nearly 1 million people. It was announced that he was going to visit Soho for an hour on the evening of Friday, June 17th. Thousands packed Old Compton Street.
The plan was for Dr. Graham to go on an hour's walking tour of Soho and even preach in one or two clubs. But advance publicity by his staff was so effective that streets were jammed an hour before he arrived, and Dr. Graham had to struggle even to get out of his car.
The Reverend climbed on top of a car to speak to the crowd.
To all of you, first of all, I did not know that all of you would be here. I came here tonight to ask you to come to Earl's Court. We're there every night at 7:30 except Sundays. And I really came down expecting you can. Goodbye.
It was Billy Graham's shortest sermon ever.
But why did he cut his sermon short, and what was he looking at behind him? One attendee in particular had something to say to Billy, and she insisted on being heard. The press moved in. And then, the police. Brigitte landed on the front page of the Sunday Mirror, stating she wanted to confront Billy Graham regarding his comments about miniskirts. And she was hoping to try again soon. Once again, Brigitte made headlines around the world. But she was now known as Brigitte St. John. From my research, the Billy Graham confrontation in Soho is the last time I found Brigitte in Great Britain. I would love to know what happened, so if you were there or if you know anything, please share your story in the comments or email me. Brigitte moved to Spain in the summer or autumn of 1966. In October, a short interview shared that she had wanted to improve her acting skills and had just wrapped filming the James Bond spoof Casino Royale. While she does not appear in the film's credits, it is possible she was in the movie. I watched the movie closely and cannot 100% confirm that she's in it, but it is entirely possible I missed her as a Bond girl, a dancer, or that she appeared in one of the many cut sequences and scenes. In February 1967, Don Levy's Herostratus premiered, with Brigitte performing a striptease sequence spliced throughout the movie. Herostratus was filmed in 1964 and 1965, making this her earliest film role. Brigitte was cast in supporting roles of two other movies in her career: La Muchacha del Nilo, where Brigitte has a featured dance number, and La Esclava del Paraíso, a historical fantasy movie.
I beg, my lord, to forgive this unworthy slave.
It is likely Brigitte appeared in other movies but was uncredited. If you know of any films I missed or worked with Brigitte on one of these films, please reach out to me or comment below. By the late 60s, Brigitte was considered a super vedette, a term only used for the most exceptional cabaret artistes. However, her shows seem to become less frequent. This could be a reality, or it could be due to my inability to find archival proof of all of her performances. Probably somewhere in the middle. From September to November 1967, she danced in the Symphonie des Couleurs stage show at El Biombo. During this time, she was photographed between taxis on Gran Via, possibly to promote the show. I've also found comments online saying that Brigitte was beautiful enough to literally stop traffic in Madrid. She began 1968 in the Canary Islands, dancing at the Flamingo nightclub. And then in June, she returned to Madrid for a month-long residency at the York Club, including 3 dates with another early transgender celebrity and super vedette. And that October performed alongside the award-winning Grande Poeta Eose in Lisbon. After 1968, things began to get spotty, with large periods of time where I could not find any information about her, or I found vague information about her. For example, I found this archival photo that places her in Italy in the late 60s or early 70s at one of Renato Morosani's highly publicized parties. Between 1970 and 1972, she had a series of photos published in Beautiful Britons and Spic. These are the only nude magazines I found her published in, but I would not be surprised if there were more out there. She danced at Teatro Alcione in Genova, Italy for a handful of dates in May and December 1971, and again in May 1972. She returned to Madrid for a week-long engagement at Nueva Romana in August 1972. She also danced at the New York Club in Barcelona in the early 70s, which I know thanks to these promotional photos I found, but I'm not sure of the exact dates. In December 1974, Gay Club opened in Madrid's Hotel Nacional, with the legendary Paco España usually being the primary attraction.
Sí, pero ¿por qué? ¿Por qué y por qué? Quieren saber de mi vida privada.
I'm not sure of the exact dates Brigitte performed, but information I found points to her performing in Loco Loco Cabaret in the club's early years. In 1975, Brigitte traveled to Mallorca for a 2-week cabaret residency at Jartins. Her act became so popular, she ended up extending her residency to 4 months. In March 1976, she began a tour of Catalonia, Spain, with performances in Costa Brava, the Rialto nightclub in Barcelona, and then Club Scarlet in Lleida. On April 8, 1976, an in-depth interview with Brigitte was published. In the interview, she shares information about both her professional and private life. She shared that she had performed all over the world, had worked with well-known creatives, had released music in Italy, and that she was now married and living in Campania, Italy with her husband. And that her real name was Giovanna. Brigitte wrapped up her residency at Club Scarlet in May 1976, and after that, I don't know. This is the last time I find her in history. I don't know what happened to Brigitte or Giovanna, but I know that someone has to know. Brigitte's career took her around the world and put her in front of millions. She was in the same circles as some of the most influential people of the 20th century, so I'm surprised that no one until now has pieced together the extensive details of this extraordinary woman's life.
My work to tell Brigitte's story does not end with this video. I'm dedicated to continuing my research, and I'm hopeful that this video will be widely shared and get in front of the right people to help me fill in the gaps of her story. Again, if you have any information about her, any stories about her, or oh my god, if you are her, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. If you'd like to keep up with any updates to her story, please subscribe to my channel and follow me over on Instagram at Miss Upsetter Designs. I'm also planning on doing some other ska and subculture history related videos, so if you enjoyed this, I have more coming. If you enjoyed this video and would like to show support for the project that started this whole project, I have Brigitte Beat Girl enamel pins and stickers up for pre-sale on my site at MissUpsetterDesigns.com. Also, make sure to purchase the upcoming book Rude Girls by my friend and collaborator Heather Augustin on skabook.com. Brigitte's gonna have her own chapter. Thank you so much for watching.